My cat Freddie loves to be brushed and cuddled. But stirring up his cat allergens meant sneezing and itchy eyes. Then I found Purina One Live Clear. It's cat food that reduced the major allergen and my suffering in as little as 21 days. Now, we feel closer than ever. If you have issues with cat allergens, you really need to try Purina One Live Clear.
Try new Purina One Live Clear today. Purina One, a difference from day one.
WABC New York and 107.1 WLIR Hampton Bays.
It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Sponsored by Secure Cash, LLC. Talking the news with Noam Laden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noam.
On 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me, 5:02. Good morning. It is Monday, March 17th. Happy St. Patrick's Day. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Steady rain this morning. Some showers this afternoon, high 56. Tonight and overnight, clear, low 36. And then Tuesday, it all clears out. Sunshine, high 59. If you are walking out the door with us right now, 55 and raining in Smithtown out on Long Island. 56 and raining in East Hanover in New Jersey. And it's 55 and raining right outside our Midtown studios.
The top 5 at 5.
It's a day to celebrate everything Irish. Another subway rider set on fire. Those 2 trapped astronauts are about to finally come home. Should we be worried that cats are coming down with bird flu? And Mr. Softy is about to go legit. All right, let's get into it at 5:03. All right. Happy St. Patrick's Day. I have my Kiss Me I'm Irish button on, hoping this will be the year it'll actually happen. It is pouring here in the city. We're hoping the rain will die down as the day goes on. This is all part of this storm that blew through the Midwest over the weekend, really violent out there, so we're not getting it as bad as they did. But the big parade, it kicks off at 11 o'clock this morning, and make sure you look for us. We're going to be along the parade route in a tent. It'll be Sid Rosenberg, of course, from Sid and Friends in the Morning, Greg Kelly, Dominic Carter, Rita Cosby, all out on the parade route. If I'm not mistaken, we have the spot that we usually do. If someone knows better, they'll correct me, at 59th and 5th Avenue. So come by and say hello. If you're on the parade route today, give us a holler, and we'll be excited to see you. This rain that we're getting this morning, and if you're just walking out, you'll give yourself a little extra time because it is pouring out there. Americans across the country were pounded by this vicious weather that hit a whole bunch of the Midwest, some southern states as well. High winds, blinding dust storms, others decimated structures, left 40 people dead. National Weather Service says there were tornado watches all over the Carolinas and the southern states, Florida and eastern Georgia over the weekend. In Alabama, 3 people killed there when multiple tornadoes swept through the state. Among those killed, an 82-year-old woman.
She called me back, and all she could say was, "Mama, her house is gone. It's leveled, and it's leveled."
It sounded like a war zone. Stuff beating against the house. Wind was whipping through.
6 deaths in Mississippi, 3 in Arkansas.
This is my hometown, and just to see it the way it is just heartbreaking. It almost makes you want to cry.
She was trapped in that bedroom, only room standing left of this house. She was trapped in it. We got her out the window.
Death toll, again, is at 40. Tornadoes hitting Mississippi as well.
Governor Tate Reeves says 3 deaths were reported in Walthall County and 1 in Covington County, and 2 people were killed in the same home in Jefferson Davis County. At least 28 people have been injured by the Mississippi tornadoes, and 3 people are reported missing. Storm damage has been reported in 21 Mississippi counties, and as of Saturday night, thousands in Mississippi are still without power. I'm Jim Forbes.
And more than 200 homes destroyed in wildfires in Oklahoma. One of the homes was Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt's farmhouse.
We'll be rebuilding with the rest of Oklahoma, and you never think it's going to happen to your place. And these wildfires just come out of nowhere and can really take over.
Stitt posting a video of social media showing him surveying what was left of that house.
This was my place. And total loss yesterday in the fires. And my basement. There's my gun safe down there.
That was the only thing that survived was the gun safe. Of course, the big cleanup going to begin this morning in all those states. Back here in New York, a search underway here in Manhattan for a man who set a subway rider on fire early Sunday morning in Times Square.
Police say they got a 911 call shortly before 4 a.m. of a person on fire at 7th Avenue and 41st Street. ABC 7 reports the victim told cops that he'd been approached by a man who threw a liquid on him and lit him on fire. The fire was put out and the victim was taken to New York Presbyterian Cornell Medical Center, where he is reported in stable condition and is expected to be okay. Larry Kofsky, NBC News Radio.
WABC News Time 5:08. An investigation underway after two bodies found inside of a home in Queens.
The discovery was made just after 1 o'clock Saturday afternoon in Middle Village. Police say they found a 57-year-old man with a gunshot wound to the head and the body of an 88-year-old woman with no apparent injuries. Sources say the woman's body was badly decomposed. The cause of her death has not yet been determined. A firearm was recovered at that scene. The relationship between the two victims is not yet clear.
WABC News Time 5:09. SpaceX Crew 10 mission is at the International Space Station, which means finally Sonny Williams and Butch Wilmore hope to return to Earth. Here's what it sounds like.
Contact and soft capture complete.
Yeah, so you can imagine how excited Butch and Sonny were to finally see these astronauts. They were being sent up to space to take their place, and then they'll be able to go back home. It's not really clear exactly which day. Here's the commander, Ann McClain, who sent a message to Earth just minutes after the launch.
Spaceflight is tough, but humans are tougher. Days like today are made possible only when people choose to do the harder right over the easier wrong. Build relationships, choose cooperation, and believe in the inherent goodness of all people across the world.
The crew scheduled to dock, they were at the International Space Station, and it happened around 11:30 Saturday night, which clears the way for Sonny Williams and Butch Wilmore to get back home.
We're not the first humans to get to orbit, and we wouldn't be here without the bravery and hard work of those who have paved the way for human spaceflight. We now get the unique perspective of Earth without borders and get to revel in the connectedness of humanity.
Okay, so NASA telling us that there's going to be no special celebration planned for the two astronauts who've had this unexpected 9-month stay. Remember, it was supposed to be 8 days. They've been there 9 months on the International Space Station.
We're excited to get Crew 9 back, and I know Butch and Sonny are excited to come back. And then we'll celebrate, when they're ready.
Crew 9 is scheduled to depart Wednesday. That's what we're being told now. But, of course, these things obviously change depending on the weather, other factors. NASA non-committal, though, on the splashdown time.
The phasing will vary depending on where our landing site will be and, how long we'll be in transit, essentially, to that splashdown location.
Well, you can imagine how excited Butch and Sonny are to finally know that they're finally going to go back home after 9 months. Governor Hochul talking about her White House meeting that took place on Friday with President Trump. So here's what we know. It lasted 2 hours, which is pretty long, covered a wide range of topics, including congestion pricing. But the big issue for President Trump, key to his agenda, was a controversial pipeline.
The governor was here to talk about the pipeline that President Trump is very determined to get passed.
So if the so-called Constitution pipeline that was blocked a decade ago from bringing natural gas from Pennsylvania to upstate New York over environmental concerns, and so President Trump was trying to convince Governor Hochul to drop that. So it's not clear that she's going to go along with this. Governor Hochul spelled out her own top priorities, during this meeting with President Trump.
He knows I want to talk about congestion pricing again. I want to talk about, our concerns about energy in light of the tariffs.
So they talked about all that. President Trump says the pipeline would reduce energy costs.
This one pipeline will save per family $2,500 just on heating.
But a woman who lives near where this pipeline would go says she opposes it.
This is 400 feet from my house, 400 feet from the elementary school that my daughter attends.
Now, here's the interesting part. Normally we get a lot out of these meetings, which will suggest that things did not go well. But we didn't get a lot out of these meetings at all. So maybe there's some debate going on, some give and take on congestion pricing, the pipeline, other things, where there may be some sort of deal that will be announced. 2 hours is a long time for the governor and the president to sit down. Secretary of the Treasury dismissing concerns about the stock market losses over the last couple months following President Trump's tariffs on international goods, but the losses began before that. Scott Bessent says President Trump is just correcting the dangerous policies of the Biden White House, insisting that he doesn't expect there to be an economic crisis. But, of course, if you looked at your 401k over the last couple of weeks, it feels like an economic crisis.
I'm not worried about the markets. Over the long term, if we put good tax policy in place, deregulation, and energy security, the markets will do great.
Well, let's hope he's right. He says corrections in the stock market are healthy, and in the long run, the market will be more stable. But, of course, if you're somebody who's about to take out the money now, you're freaking out.
We are bringing those down in a responsible way. We are going to have a transition, and we are not going to have a crisis.
Bessent says he doesn't expect there to be a recession, insisting Trump's planned tariffs will ultimately help the markets, which have been begging for help over the last 2 months.
Going into April 2nd, and already now, we've seen some of our most imbalanced trading partners come forward and want to drop their tariffs.
And Bessent says, went on to say, the tariffs that are set to go into effect on April 2nd will actually make global trade more fair to the U.S., which he says in the long run will strengthen the economy. You had the Canadian ambassador yesterday to the U.S. insisting that the two countries are still close allies despite those disagreements over trade. Kristen Hillman says that after recent meetings between officials from both countries, she expects some big announcements will impact the tariffs President Trump plans to impose on Canada beginning in April.
And we understood from them his whole global agenda in this respect. And we talked about how Canada can fit into that.
And she says the meetings regarding trade have been productive and insisted Canadian officials want to accommodate President Trump's economic plan. So they're hoping in the end they can work something out.
On April 2nd, there will be announcements that will affect the whole world, including Canada.
All right, so let's see what happens April 2nd. 5:15, let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk. Happy Monday. Good morning, Justin Allen.
Happy Monday. Good morning to you, Noam Linden. Start here on the Collegiate Hardwood Saturday night at the Garden, where R.J. Lewis Jr. scored all but 2 of his 29 points after halftime, and number 6, St. John's, made 14 straight shots from the field in the second half to beat Creighton 82-66 for their first Big East tournament title in 25 years. Zubi Ejiofor added 20 points, and Kadari Richmond had 12 points and 12 rebounds for the top-seeded Red Storm, who reached 30 wins for the third time in program history in front of a roaring hometown sold-out crowd at MSG. They earned the conference's automatic bid to the NCAA tournament for their first trip since 2019, making 72-year-old Hall of Famer Rick Pitino the first coach to take 6 schools to the big dance. The others were BU, Providence, Kentucky, Louisville, and Iona.
Boy, that's unbelievable when you think about it.
Yeah,
especially Iona, you know.
With that, totally. Yeah, Iona comes out of nowhere.
Yeah.
But, of course, you know, he gets booted from Louisville sort of in a disgrace sort of way, and brings Iona back into the discussion, I guess you could say. And obviously what he's doing with St. John's, Noam, is incredible. They will be one of the 2 seeds in the NCAA tournament, along with Michigan State, Alabama, and Tennessee. This year's 1 seeds will consist of the Auburn Tigers, the Duke Blue Devils, the Houston Cougars, and the Florida Gators. The madness begins tomorrow with the start of the first 4 round of the tournament before first-round action gets underway come Thursday night, 9:45 p.m. You do get St. John's against 15-seed Omaha.
That's up in Providence, right?
Yep, that's up in Providence, and which is actually ironic because Pitino obviously coached Providence in the past. So, yeah, short trip for Johnny's fans. You go out and pack the house and support on, or cheer on, I should say, your Red Storm.
All right, so your prediction, how far is St. John's going?
I mean, I think they got a shot to make. Listen, if you're a 2 seed, you got a shot to make the Final 4, and that's no joke. But
I want your prediction. What do you say?
My prediction? I'm very optimistic about it. I would think, why not? Why not ride St. John's to the Final 4? I mean, if you're a betting man and you're from the local area, if you want to hop on a bandwagon, ride the Johnnies, man.
Okay.
You know, why not? I mean, who else are you going to support?
Yale's playing.
Oh, okay, sure. By the way, Yale, there's this Nick Townsend kid on Yale. He went to Horace Greeley High School, where I went to high school, and his older brother, Matt Townsend, also played at Yale. Yeah, they were the only kids that I'd ever seen dunk up until I was about 18 years old.
Right, I bet in school like that, yeah.
To the NBA, I should say, out in Brooklyn, Ken Johnson went for 28. Keon Johnson had 22, and the Nets beat the Hawks 122-114. Up next for them, they'll be in Boston tomorrow night to battle the Celtics. The Knicks will be back out there tonight, returning home to host the Miami Heat for a 7:30 p.m. tip-off. Quickly here to the ice at the Garden. The Rangers fell to the Oilers. Final score there, 3-1. Up next for them, they'll host the Flames tomorrow. In Elmont, Mark Gatcomb kicked off the scoring in the third period. The Islanders scored 3 more times to defeat the Florida Panthers 4-2. Up next for them, they'll visit the Penguins in Pittsburgh tomorrow night. That's your sports, and I'm Justin Ellick on 77 WABC.
Thank you very much, Justin. While we're talking sports, 77 WABC Big Basketball Bracket Challenge is back. The bracket has been set. Time to make your picks. Go to WABCRadio.com/bracket right now. Fill out your bracket. Pick your winners. First place wins rounds of golf at the for 2 at the Crystal Springs Resort. You heard me. It's the 77 WABC Big Basketball Bracket Challenge. Go to WABCRadio.com/bracket right now.
Hey, business owners, make your cash secure again with Secure Cash LLC. Transporting your business's cash safely in armored trucks. SecureCashLLC.com.
WABC News Time 5:20. President Trump's national security advisor says Iran is on notice after recent U.S. airstrikes against Houthi rebels in Yemen. Michael Waltz says the military launched devastating strikes against the Iran-backed group in response to its attacks on global shipping in the Red Sea.
We hit the Houthi leadership, killing several of their key leaders last night, their infrastructure, the missiles.
The Houthis announced last week that they were going to resume attacks on Israeli ships in response to the country cutting off aid to the Gaza Strip. But U.S. officials say the attacks against the Houthis will continue in the coming weeks unless the group stops its attacks.
But we're not going to do what the Biden administration did in terms of this kind of pinprick back and forth. President Trump showed leadership, and we just hit them with overwhelming force and put Iran on notice.
This as President Trump is pushing Iran to negotiate over its nuclear program. President Trump's special envoy to the Middle East says Russia and Ukraine are close to a deal to end the war between the two nations. Steve Witkoff says this significant progress has been made during recent peace talks, repeating President Trump's assertion that a deal could be close.
The president uses the time frame weeks, and I don't disagree with him. I am really hopeful that we're going to see some real progress here.
That would be spectacular. Witkoff stopped short of discussing exactly what Russia's demands are and which points still need negotiation.
As the president said, he really expects there to be some sort of deal in the coming weeks. The two sides we've narrowed the differences between them. And now we're sitting at the table.
And it was last week that Ukrainian President Zelensky accepted a deal, a U.S.-backed ceasefire proposal. Back home, Democrats becoming more and more divided over that GOP funding bill that'll keep the government open. They're speaking in the open, which apparently they don't do very often, going after Senator Schumer, who said that he was going to side with this bill to get it done. And so there's been some people who are very upset with the senator.
I think it is a huge slap in the face, and I think that there is a wide sense of betrayal.
You might recognize that voice. That's Democratic Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, of course, from New York. She's not happy after learning that Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer reversed course on Friday and said he would vote for the stopgap government funding bill because he thinks a government shutdown would be a gift to President Trump. AOC says, no, she wants to continue to fight the White House.
We have time to correct course on this decision. Senate Democrats can vote no. We can correct course.
Yeah, so speaking very openly that she's not happy with the senator. 5:23, some chilling audio has been released from the 911 calls following the 2022 murders of those 4 University of Idaho students. A panicked caller tries to describe to the dispatcher what's happened. And this all, of course, disturbing these tapes, but they've finally been released. They've been asked to be released for a while.
911 location of your emergency.
Something is happening. Something happened in our house. We don't know what.
Yeah, that caller, you can hear, is so distraught that at some point she hands the phone to another person who provides a little more detail about what's taking place inside this house.
Tell me exactly what's going on.
One of the roommates has passed out, and she was drunk last night, and she's not waking up. Okay. Oh, and they saw some man in their house last night.
911 call that was made November 13th, 2022, about 12 in the afternoon, a little more than 7 hours after the murders were believed to have happened. The audio had been under a gag order until portions of the 911 transcripts were released. Brian Koberger has been charged with the murders of those 4 students. His trial is set to begin on August 11th. 524 down to Texas, where that measles outbreak is close to 300 cases now. There have been 36 new cases just in the last week alone, which, of course, doctors are very concerned about. They continue to renew their calls to get people vaccinated.
That's still the only way, really, to prevent measles.
Dr. Michael Chain, he's a pediatric infectious disease specialist with the University of Texas Health System. The epicenter of the outbreak remains this rural part of West Texas, where immunization rates are the lowest in the state. Some of this is a Mennonite community where they don't believe in getting vaccinations, and so they're trying to convince them that you should anyway, because you can survive the measles but then have after effects for years to come.
The MMR vaccine, it's been unchanged for 50 years, and there's billions of doses that have been safely administered globally since its introduction. From 6 months and on, if parents are concerned, I would recommend getting an MMR vaccine. Not a safety issue.
Now, we've had a couple cases here in New York and New Jersey, but I have not heard any numbers that they've gone up. It was 2 or 3 in New Jersey, 2 or 3 here in the city. Homeland Security shutting down the circus tents in South Texas that were used to process illegal immigrants. Congressman there, Henry Cuellar, says these temporary facilities are no longer needed because there's so few people crossing the border there.
Certainly right now, I think we got the lowest crossings since the 1930s.
That's pretty amazing if it's true. The congressman says this is part of the normal ebbs and flow of handling illegal immigration.
So I think you're going to see processing centers, either shut down, but then you're going to have detention centers that are going to go up.
We go from Texas up to Arizona. Senator Mark Kelly, Democrat, getting rid of his Tesla after a very public spat with Elon Musk. In a video posted on X over the weekend, the Arizona Democrat said he drove the car to work for the very last time. This is part of these crew who are very upset with Elon Musk, mostly, of course, liberal voters.
Every time I get in this car in the last 60 days or so, it reminds me of just how much damage Elon Musk and Donald Trump is doing to our country.
Now, some of this, of course, is tied to the spat. Earlier last week, Musk called Kelly a traitor after the senator posted pictures of his trip to Ukraine. Kelly responded by telling Musk he doesn't understand what it means to defend freedom. And that's when he said, oh, wait a minute, I'm driving one of your cars. Let me get rid of it. So he did.
It's one bad thing after the next. He's firing veterans. I'm a veteran. So I have a really hard time driving around in this thing. So I think it's time for an upgrade today. So this is going to be my last trip in this car.
Yeah, so he says actually he found things he liked about the car, but he found things that he didn't like about driving a Tesla around.
There's some things I really liked about it. There are things I didn't like about it, but that doesn't matter. What matters is doing the right thing. I think it's time to get rid of it.
Yeah, so Tesla has faced protests and calls for a boycott due to Musk's work with the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE. And, of course, I've pointed out, if you were listening in the 4 o'clock hour, that most people who buy Teslas tend to be more liberal, right? Because they're worried about the environment. That's why they're buying an electric car. And so he's losing those people who might be shopping for Teslas, probably are no longer shopping for them.
You're listening to the #1 Nielsen rated The News Hour with Noam Laden. Thank you for listening. 77 WABC. It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Sponsored by Secure Cash, LLC. Talking the news with Noam Laden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noam.
On 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me, 5:37. Good morning. It is Monday, March 17th. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Steady rain this morning. Could see some showers this afternoon. High 56. Tonight and overnight clear. Low 36, and then it all clears out. Tuesday, sunshine. High 59 if you are walking out the door with us right now. So happy you are. 55 raining in Smithtown out on Long Island. 56 and raining in East Hanover in New Jersey. And it's 54 raining here in Midtown. Oh, yeah. The big parade's today. Millions going to pack Fifth Avenue St. Patrick's Day parade. Heavy rain, heavy winds expected for the early part. We're hoping it'll clear out in time for later in the day. Everybody getting ready in town last night. The bars were packed. The pubs were packed.
Everyone comes together, the community, and celebrates, Irish culture, and it's just so wonderful.
Yeah, people getting ready for the parade, and that'll happen, of course, a couple hours from now.
Just, a lot of fun. People, having a good time. That's all what it is. Exactly what you see in here will be out on the street on the parade. That's what it'll be.
264th annual parade. It kicks off at 11 a.m. We are going to be on the parade route. Now, nobody's corrected me so far, so I'm assuming it's right. We'll be right at 58 or 59th and 5th Avenue with our big WABC tent. So come by. You'll get to meet Sid Rosenberg, Dominic Carter, Greg Kelly, and Rita Cosby. So here's your chance to meet some of the 77 WABC personalities along the parade route. Here's a guy, owner of an Irish pub, getting ready. He says it's a big day, and even the weeks leading up to it are big.
We have to have a special menu on every day in March. We probably cook up to 10,000 pounds of corned beef alone. Now, we also have selected shepherd's pie, chicken pot pie, lamb stew, fish and chips as well. Doubles the business for the whole day. It's a very, very busy day.
Yeah, that's 10,000 pounds of corned beef. That's one restaurant. 10,000 pounds of corned beef. I love it. All right, traffic transit now with one of our favorite Irish folks. What are you doing, Joe Nolan, to celebrate St. Patrick's Day today?
Actually, we did a lot of celebrating over the weekend, but today probably just be quiet. Put the quiet man on and just sit and watch TV later on.
Oh, no going out just like to lift a pint at a local pub?
No. It's amateur night, St. Patrick's Day.
Oh, is it kind of like New Year's Eve sort of thing?
Yeah. Okay. I don't like to go out on St. Patrick's Day because it's, there's drunks everywhere.
Right. Safer just to stay home.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
It's also one of the most dangerous days on the road, according to AAA.
Oh, you're kidding.
Year,
wow.
Believe it or not.
WABC News Time 5:41. A man recovering this morning after being set on fire near the Times Square subway station. Here's what we know about the victim. 45 years old, set on fire near West 41st and 7th Avenue. It was about 4 in the morning. Police say he may have had a flammable substance thrown on him, and then someone set him on fire. The victim actually was assisted by firefighters, and he was able to have some sort of conversation with them until they took him to a local hospital to be treated for burns all over his body. And, of course, this all freaks out subway riders and people just walking through Times Square.
Sunday morning, it's nice time to be out in the city, and so I'm a bit shocked.
There's always something happening. Someone got set on fire in the train station, so unfortunately, it's not surprising, but it is still concerning.
So far, no arrests have been made, investigation ongoing?
Police everywhere. I've never seen so much police like this here in Times Square.
I feel sad for humanity. I don't understand why somebody would do that. I feel like a lot of things are unsettled right now.
Yes, so those were people who were talking about the story before. We have this latest update we just got this morning that the NYPD is telling us that this individual who was set on fire knew the person that set him on fire. Now, of course, that doesn't make it any better, but it makes it a little less frightening that it's just completely random. Apparently, it is not completely random, so they may know who they're looking for. Of course, this all follows that disturbing arson attack that took place in the city back in December when a 57-year-old homeless woman was set on fire. In her case, unfortunately, she passed away. Was sorry to see this story over the weekend. Nita Lowey, the former congresswoman from Westchester County, passed away, 87 years old. Her family releasing a statement saying that she was surrounded by her husband, children, and grandchildren as she passed in her Harrison, New York home. She had been quietly, and the family said bravely, battling breast cancer in recent years. And that's what took her down. But she was an enormously available congresswoman when it came to the press, and very delightful to talk to. And I can tell you just my experience. I enjoyed my conversations, which were many over the years. I know some people will be upset because you're not supposed to, whether it's Democrat or Republican, people get upset, but I don't jive that way. People are people, and I found her an incredibly pleasant woman to talk to. So here she was back in 1988 when she first won election. She had beat an incumbent, which of course is incredibly hard to do as a congressperson.
It's a thrilling day. It's a dream come true, and it's still not feeling quite real. Although when I put my card in that slot and voted, it's becoming realer every moment.
Yeah, so during her time in office, she sponsored a bunch of what her family says was life-changing legislation on education, medical research, and international relations. Now, she retired back in 2021 at the height of the COVID pandemic. Here she was in one of her last days in Congress.
While I'll be sad to hand over the gavel, I know that all of us, members and staff, will live by the underlying principle that has guided our work together. Do the best we can to make life better for the most people we can.
And Loie, who was married to her husband, Stephen, for 64 years, her husband is still around. Here's Congressman George Latimer commenting on Loie's passing away.
I think that's how it should be remembered, as an essential part of the community, somebody we sent to Washington, not somebody that Washington sent to us.
Yeah, definitely sorry to see her go. 5:45, let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk, and here's Justin Alec.
Thank you, Noam Laden. Start here on the Collegiate Hardwood Saturday night at the Garden, where R.J. Lewis Jr. scored all but 2 of his 29 points after halftime, and number 6 St. John's made 14 straight shots from the field in the second half to beat Creighton 82-66 for their first Big East tournament title in 25 years. Zuby Ejiofor added 20 points, and Kadari Richmond had 12 points and 12 rebounds for the top-seeded Red Storm, who ended 30-4. They reached 30 wins for the third time in program history in front of a roaring hometown sold-out crowd at MSG. They earned the conference's automatic bid to the NCAA tournament for their first trip since 2019, making 72-year-old Hall of Famer Rick Pitino the first coach to take 6 schools to the Big Dance. The others were BU, Providence, Kentucky, Louisville, and Iona. The Johnnies will be among the NCAA tournament's 2 seeds, along with Michigan State, Alabama, and Tennessee. This year's 1 seeds will consist of the Auburn Tigers, the Duke Blue Devils, the Houston Cougars, and the Florida Gators. The madness begins tomorrow with the start of the first 4 round of the tournament before first round action really gets underway come Thursday. And that Thursday night, 9:45 p.m. tip-off, you do get 2-seed St. John's against 15-seed Omaha in the first round. To the NBA in Brooklyn, Cam Johnson scored 28, Keon Johnson added 22, and the Nets beat the Atlanta Hawks 122-114. Up next for the Nets, they'll be in Boston tomorrow night to battle the Celtics. As for the Knicks, they return to action tonight, returning home to host the Miami Heat. First 7:30 p.m. tip into the NHL. In the ice at the Garden, the Rangers fell to the Oilers by a score of 3-1. Coming up next for them, they'll host the Calgary Flames tomorrow night in Elmont. Mark Gakkum kicked off the scoring in the third period. The Islanders scored 3 more times to defeat the Florida Panthers 4-2, recovering from a 2-0 deficit. Up next for them, they'll visit the Penguins in Pittsburgh tomorrow night. And lastly, big NFL offseason news dropped out of Cincinnati over the weekend. 2 of the NFL's most prominent wide receivers will be with the Bengals for the foreseeable future. Jamar Chase and T. Higgins told Fox Sports yesterday that they have agreed to contract extensions. Chase agreed to a 4-year, $161 million deal that includes $112 million guaranteed, while Higgins agreed to a 4-year, $115 million deal that is guaranteed for the first 2 years. Chase's deal has an annual average of $40.25 million, setting an NFL record for the highest average annual salary for a non-quarterback. That is your Sports Gnome, and I'm Justin Ellick on 77 WABC.
WABC News Time 5:49. Keeping our fingers crossed for a firefighter who's in grave condition after battling a 2-alarm fire in Brooklyn yesterday. They have not given us his identity, but he suffered some sort of medical episode, went into cardiac arrest as he was battling this blaze. There were about 100 firefighters EMTs that responded to the fire, Lafayette Avenue in Bushwick, as the fire spread to multiple floors. We could see as firefighters were on the roof of this building working to vent the flames from about 50 feet in the air. Not clear where this firefighter was, but we're again being told he's in grave condition, and we hope that improves. The cause of that fire is under investigation. Secretary of State Marco Rubio taking to the news shows over the weekend saying that more student visas and green cards could be revoked as the federal government makes the case to remove Mahmoud Khalil, the Columbia University grad student's attorneys, releasing a video of the weekend of the arrest that took place from ICE agents. It was about a week ago. Brad Parker is Khalil's attorney, and he says he shouldn't be behind bars because he has not been charged with any crime.
He does not have any affiliation, does not support Hamas. That's it. There's no criminal charges. There's no unlawful activity that's even alleged by the government at this point.
Khalil's attorney saying the only basis for the removal action is the determination solely of Secretary of State Marco Rubio that Khalil's presence and activities could pose a threat to the U.S. And that's what Marco Rubio was saying on the news shows over the weekend.
If you tell us when you apply for a visa, I'm coming to the U.S. to participate in pro-Hamas events, that runs counter to the foreign policy interest of the United States of America. It's that simple. So you lied. You came. If you had told us that you were going to do that, we never would have given you the visa. Now you're here. Now you do it. So you lied to us. You're out.
Now, ICE agents were back at it over the weekend. A doctoral student from India self-deported last week after her visa was revoked, and DHS claims she supported Hamas. And a second Columbia student, Laga Cordia, a Palestinian from the West Bank, was arrested Friday in Newark for her part in the Hamilton Hall Columbia University takeover back in April last year. Meanwhile, the Secretary of State says that more arrests will take place and that they did the right thing with Mahmoud Khalil.
Negotiating on behalf of people that took over a campus, that vandalized buildings? Negotiating over what? That's a crime in and of itself, that they're involved in being the negotiator, the spokesperson, this, that, the other. We don't want it. We don't need these people in our country. We never should have allowed them in the first place.
Now, Khalil will learn more about his fate when there is a hearing, but that doesn't take place until the end of the month. And there were more protests right outside the Columbia campus over the weekend. People upset about the fact that Mahmoud Khalil was being detained. And that coming as at the end of last week, Columbia University announced that it had expelled or suspended a number of students for their part in these protests. They did give us an official number. And the White House says it'll continue to target universities like Columbia that don't do enough to protect their Jewish students. The latest is going to be NYU, apparently.
NYU is one of 52 colleges in 41 states. The Education Department accused Friday of using racial preferences and stereotypes in education programs and activities. The focus is on schools partnering with the PhD Project, a non-controversial group until now that helps doctoral students with assistance in networking. The feds say it limits eligibility based on race. Duke, Emory, Georgetown, Vanderbilt, Rice, and MIT are among the schools being investigated alongside NYU. President Trump's son Barron is an undergraduate student at the Greenwich Village-based university. Andrew Whitman, NBC News Radio, New York.
WABC News Time 5:53. Lots of cat owners getting very nervous over the last 3 or 4 days. There were those reports of the feral cats here in New York City ending up with bird flu. There were a couple of cats in New Jersey and Hunterdon County, same thing. Veterinarians are warning pet owners of bird flu risks after those cats tested positive for the virus. They say the risk of a cat contracting bird flu remains very low, but there is serious concern, especially given the potential for the virus to mutate and spread.
There are pet owners that are seeing this in the news and are concerned. A lot of pet owners are coming in concerned, the ones that are feeding commercial raw diets. They're really concerned that they're putting their pets at risk.
Yeah, so in New Jersey, the Department of Health has reported that several cats from Hunterdon County contracted the virus. Here's what the symptoms are.
But there are a couple of things that we can look out for. Things like eye discharge, nasal discharge, fever, decreased appetite, lethargy, and sometimes even more serious things beyond that.
Yeah, so if you see any of those things, they say definitely bring your cat to the vet. Out on Long Island, Suffolk County police looking for a man that fatally shot someone in a car. This was in Central Islip. Gustavo Godinez was sitting in a parked vehicle. This was about 11:52 p.m. on Saturday, and that's when he was shot. The person that shot him fled the scene.
It's terrifying. It's right on my doorstep.
It's very disturbing, especially waking up Sunday morning, going to church, and you see the crime scene tape, a lot of detectives.
Godinez was transported to South Shore University Hospital in Bayshore, and that's where he was pronounced dead.
I didn't want to go outside because maybe the threat was still around here, so.
Police just asking people, have you heard? Somebody called, there were shots fired.
Yeah, so again, that shot came from inside his car. Detectives, of course, asking anybody with information about the incident to give them a holler. NYPD releasing surveillance photos this morning of 9 people wanted in connection with a brutal attack last week on a number 6 subway.
Police say the group, 8 men and 1 woman, ganged up on their 28-year-old victim at around 4:30 last Wednesday morning at the Canal Street station. They allegedly kicked and punched him and took off with his cash and debit card. The victim was taken to Bellevue, suffering from head injuries as well as swelling of his face and nose. Larry Kofsky, NBC News Radio.
Of course, everybody excited on the St. John's campus after the Johnnies made
Come
it to
on, baby.
the NCAA tournament. Yeah, here were some fans at, they had one of these big parties on the campus yesterday.
I cannot believe it. Me and all my friends were already talking about ready to go out there to Providence to watch the game.
You gotta go all the way. Why would you stop now? Why stop now?
Okay,
I'm calling Final Four.
Yeah, so St. John's has advanced to the Final Four twice. Can you name the years, Sydney?
1985, Chris Mullen's team lost to Patrick Ewing and Georgetown in the semis.
Right, and what was the other year?
I think Mike Jarvis may have gotten them back, no?
No, that would not be right.
What was the year?
1952.
Oh, no, way before Carnesecca.
Yeah.
Okay.
So 1952, 1985, so you can understand why fans are really excited.
I'm very excited. We get to play in Rhode Island. Hopefully get a good crowd for Omaha. I think we'll beat them, and then we'll get a good matchup maybe against Cal and Patino.
I'm very hopeful to make it past the first 2 rounds at the very least, and I think that we have a really good shot at making it all the way.
Yeah.
People
it doesn't
know nothing
matter what
about
happens
basketball.
in the beginning of the game. It matters what happens at the end, and they finish strong.
Yeah. Here's a member of the team, so he kind of knows what's going on.
Everybody having the same collective mindset of just doing whatever it takes to win, which we've pretty much done all year. So,
yeah.
And our identity, which starts on defense.
Yeah, there you go. By the way, the 77 WABC Big Bracket Basketball Challenge is back. The bracket has been set. It's time to make your picks. Go to WABCRadio.com/bracket right now to fill out your bracket and pick your winners. First place wins round of golf for 2 at Crystal Springs Resort. You heard me. It's the 77 WABC Big Basketball Bracket Challenge. Go to WABCRadio.com/bracket right now.